What do you think?
I like it a lot. No recoil, which is always my number one thing. But yeah, it's nice and light, and I like it.
Welcome back, everyone. As you probably guessed from the title of the video, this is what we are going over today. It is a unique offering that I think is the perfect offering for a lot of people, but not for everyone, if that makes sense. So we'll break that down throughout the review, and hopefully you'll understand why. So what this is it is a relatively new. I believe these started coming in the country about 6 months ago. I've had mine in since then, been shooting it a ton. And what it is it is the Century Arms imported MKE made AP5 SD. Now, if you guys watch the channel, you know I actually have a real HK MP5 SD, so I'm very familiar, I guess you could say, with the qualities of the actual gun. Now, this isn't an actual SD, and what SD means to most folks in the gun industry is that it is integrally suppressed, meaning that the barrel itself would have some sort of porting in it that allows supersonic ammo like 124 grain, 115 grain, 9mm to bleed off velocity through the gases going through the ports, and then it has a suppressor wrapped around it to contain all of that gas. So that is one of the beautiful things about the actual HK MP5 SD is that even with supersonic ammo, it still comes out subsonic. You lose a little bit of I guess, power, if you will, but 9mm doesn't, generally speaking, doesn't count on power for efficacy. So there is that. So what this one actually is it is a full-size MP5 receiver set with a MP5K size barrel on there. So in the AP5 family, if you will, the barrel is going to be the AP5K or P, and then the receiver is going to be the standard AP5. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on with that combo. And then of course we also have the handguard here that is, you know, inspired by the actual MP5 SD. So that is what you're looking at. But I suppose with that, let's just kind of go through some of the details because there are some new things on this that other AP5s didn't have. So there's that. So this one is offered from the factory with the Magpul brace. Very good brace. I've had no issues with it at all. The one thing I would change is I wish it was had more of an intermediate position, if that makes sense. So basically, that is how you push it in and take it out. It's basically Magpul's braced version of the A3 factory HK stock, and then that is all the way out. So there's no in-between position on it, which I kind of think would be cool if there was, you know, but there isn't. So you just kind of float in space in there. Now, is that an issue for most people? No. However, some short-statured people would probably want it to be a little bit more tucked in, and obviously no one is firing it like that. With the brace out of the way, we'll continue forward on the gun. We have our trigger housing, or the lower, some people refer to it as. This one is an updated version. To the best of my knowledge, it's the only AP5 that is coming in the country right now, variant, that has the current modernized lower and trigger housing on there. So there's a few advantages to it. A lot of people, most people, myself included, find this grip versus the old one to be a little bit more comfortable. It's also going to have the pictogram on there, which is definitely looks cool. Unfortunately, it doesn't go to the fun switch button from the factory, but hopefully one day we'll get our rights back, but not right now. The selector on it, though, is ambidextrous, which is an upgrade over the traditional one, and the biggest upgrade is the actual lever itself that is on these. So I have large hands, but most people will be able to actually hit the selector on this and actuate it without breaking their grip, which is not the case for the original MP5 and AP5 selectors. Those ones, most people would have had to kind of rotate the gun in a little bit like that to be able to actuate the selector. That is not the case on this. That is a significant functional improvement, in my opinion. Continuing forward to the trigger, it's the same old MP5 trigger. It is absolutely nothing to write home about. That much I can tell you. We are clear. And again, actuate that selector. It's going to have a whole lot of roll and not a great break. It breaks right around 8 pounds on my scale. The reset, not that great. But does that really impede you from shooting the gun well? No, it definitely doesn't. Magazines, speaking of, while we're at it, does come with 2 magazines, and it does come with a case that has a clean kit in there and a bunch of other interesting things to include the optics mount. So it comes with some stuff out of the box for sure. One thing you probably noticed is that it has the traditional paddle mag release there that pretty much everyone uses. It does have the ability to be dropped via this little button right here on the side, but nobody uses that on HKs. I don't really know why. I don't either. So there is that. Additionally, we have our sling attachment point built into the receiver there. That is sort of tradition and nobody uses anymore at this point because no one uses 3-point slings in the modern era. Magazine well, though, is going to be one of the, I guess you could say, issues resulting from a 60-plus-year-old design. So basically you have to hit that thing just right because there's no magwell flaring at all on there. You basically just got to go straight in and push hard and make sure you actually get it to seat. So pretty much with any gun, you want to make sure you push pull on a magazine when inserting it to ensure it is locked in. But on the MP5, you definitely need to because it's stiff up there when you're actually inserting it. Continuing on up to the upper portion, which is the actual serialized portion of the gun on these firearms here, the way our US import laws work. We do have our traditional diopter style rear sight. It's relatively easy to zero in for the windage. However, if you want to get your elevation, you're going to need the actual MP5 tool for that. But basically to zero, I think I have a video on zeroing these, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but you can unscrew that little Phillips head on the back and get your windage, and then for the elevation you are going to need the tool for that. Like I said, it does come with the optics mount on there. It's a claw style mount. It comes with a 1913 that you guys see on there. We have the primary arms, their new ACSS CQB reticle version of the MD21 red dot that also has solar backup. It's worked very well, and in this configuration there, one of the things that a lot of people like is that with the higher up 1913 rail, your dot, if you will, is going to be above the actual protective ring on the front sight. A lot of people don't like the low mounts because the dot is basically right on that ring, and for some reason it distracts them. I don't mind it either way, but just figured out, I figured I'd point it out for those of you guys who are concerned with that. Of course, the basic operation of the gun has not changed with that different handguard. You basically are still going to run your charging handle. You can lock it, you can HK slap it, you can do all of those sorts of things when running the gun. One thing that I want to point out, I'll probably roll in B-roll here, that I think makes this a very interesting option for MP5 clones, is that it actually still has the same locking piece and the bolt and all those sorts of things that your traditional MP5 has. So I believe the locking piece on this is like 100 degrees, 120 degrees. But if you want to run it suppressed, most people would recommend a 100-degree locking piece, so that way you don't damage the receiver on it. That said, unless you're shooting a ton suppressed, I really wouldn't worry about it all that much, but it is something to point out, whereas you still have that MP5K length barrel, which is roughly 5 inches. I understand it's not actually 5 inches, but it's roughly 5 inches. And the advantage of that over the full-size barrel is that you get, in my opinion anyway, for self-defense ammo, you get proper performance, if you will. And what I mean by that is most defensive 9mm ammo is designed to perform within a certain velocity envelope, and typically it is going to be between 3 to 5 inch barrels. That's how the manufacturers are doing their calculations when designing it. And when you get like a long 8+ inch barrel like you have on the full-size MP5 and the clones, what tends to happen is the ammo will actually over expand, causing it to under penetrate. The exception is if you're using subsonic ammunition, but most people aren't. A lot of people are using supersonic defensive ammunition, so in that case you need to be very careful with it. But on this particular gun, you get the reliability and durability of the traditional receiver versus a K-style receiver, but you don't have the increased velocity with the actual rounds coming out, if that makes sense. So basically, it's the best of both worlds, in my opinion. I would love to see a variant like this made with just the traditional MP5P or K, depending on the clone handguard. I think that would be rad, and I think it would sell well. So that is one of the benefits of this setup for sure. Barrel itself, of course, is Colt Hammer forged, chrome lined, threaded, and tri-lug capable. So on there right now, we just have the CMMG. This is their 36K suppressor, which just screws on just fine. No issues with that. Now, speaking of this handguard, that is going to be either a pro or a con, depending on how you look at it. So this is, of course, MP5 SD clone correct. It feels different, I can tell you that, having both of them. The ridges are a little bit sharper on this than they are with the original HK one. But the pro of it is that it looks very cool, no doubt about it. The con of it is that if you wanted to run lights, lasers, etc., you're basically going to have to do one of two things. As you guys can see under here, I'm going to roll in some photos, but under here there's like a cage-like device, and there's definitely holes in there. So what you could do very easily is mount some pick rails to this just with a screw if you actually wanted to. And again, because it's a clone rather than the original, you don't really have to worry about like value degrading or anything like that if you do that. But yeah, you could very easily mount pick rails to this and mount your lights or lasers as you see fit. You just have to make sure that they line up where those holes are, if that makes sense. So that way the nut on the backside isn't being impeded. The other way you can do it is what you guys have probably seen so far in the video with my actual MP5 SD. I have the B&T handguard on there, and to my knowledge, it's the only one that's available for this style of gun. It's very expensive. Those things are, I mean, about a third the cost of this particular gun. So that kind of is a downside. Whereas if you have your traditional MP5, MP5K clones, there's so many inexpensive handguards out there for them that work exceptionally well that, you know, it's not really a factor like it is with this particular gun here. So at this point in the video, I think we've discussed most of the important things about the gun with a couple exceptions. Number one is going to be reliability. This gun right now has about 1,500 rounds through it. It is a mix of Minuteman munitions, 124 grain, also a bunch of MagTech 115 grain, as well as some subsonic Fiocchi hollow points, 147 grain hollow points. It has been 100% reliable to date, absolutely zero issues, almost exclusively fired with a suppressor on there. Now I should mention, if I didn't already, that it does come with a faux suppressor, so it kind of looks like a suppressor, but what it actually is essentially just a blast diverter. Now that is good. It definitely helps in terms of not having a bunch of blast if you're firing it indoors, but it's basically just there as a way to wait for you to actually put a suppressor on there, in my opinion. Of course, there's probably a lot of people that are just going to run it with that as well, but it is 1/2x28 threaded, so you can really put whatever muzzle device you want to, provided that it actually does fit under there. But again, almost all suppressed and zero malfunctions of any kind. You cannot do any better than that. Now, one thing that I definitely think is cool about this gun is that it's the closest, again, in terms of configuration that I've seen come from the factory, if you will, if you want to actually do a conversion on this. So there's not a whole lot of parts that you need to convert this to a real SD. And I think having an SD braced pistol is something that is very attractive to a lot of people. So for example, one reason you might want it is, number one, again, everything's subsonic if you do that. Additionally, if it's a braced pistol like it is here versus an SBR, you can travel across state lines and not have to notify the government based on the way our current laws are set up anyway. And I just think it would be very cool. There's a lot of advantages to SD type firearms. A lot of people are like, just run 147 grains. Well, again, there's some issues with just doing that as well, but the SD variants just give you the option to do everything, which certainly is cool. And again, there are a number of companies that are offering kits to do the conversions on this particular gun, as well as offering the services of doing the conversions themselves. If you look around, you'll see them. And quite frankly, that's probably what I am going to do with this particular gun as well. Obviously, I could do the conversion and probably will, very likely will, but I wanted to leave it in the factory configuration for the review. So lastly, price point. It's not super inexpensive as of when I'm making this video. I've seen these running around the 1,400-ish units of measure in terms of price point. Of course, we can't quote price point rather on YouTube anymore, but whatever the units of measure are where you live, that's roughly what I'm seeing it. So for a AP5 variant, it's coming in on the higher end, but I do think, again, this gun has some advantages that the other AP5 variants don't. And to the best of my knowledge, this is the only, again, SD-oriented clone that is coming into the market at all. And to the best of my knowledge, that ever has, which is very interesting. Makes it a cool offering from the folks over there at Century to actually import these. And one thing that I think would be interesting to know, I don't know the answer to this, is for those who didn't watch my video on it, I did a video on the topic of things that President Trump has changed that are pro 2A. And one of them is that they're allowing the importation of dual-use barrels. It's kind of a complicated topic in terms of what that means. But one thing it does mean is that they very likely, if somebody wants to actually import actual SD barrels from MKE, you could probably do it right now. Now, that wasn't allowed under previous administrations, but right now it seems fully allowable. I would imagine it'd be, if I don't know what form that would be actually off the top of my head. It's irrelevant. The people who can do it know what form it is. So that is an interesting option that I would like to see somebody explore, because it would definitely bring down the cost of the conversion kits, which certainly would be nice. And I think with that, that's all the information we need to know about this particular firearm. Accuracy has been great, as you'd expect. All the AP5s have been great. One thing I should point out that I talk about in all my AP5 videos is that I've converted a couple of them to select fire, and they've gotten very high round counts on them. One thing I saw as the round counts increase is that we have relatively early extractor spring failures on these guns. And that's not a catastrophic failure or anything like that when it does happen. For those who are new, all it means is that you just need to replace it to have better extraction. For whatever reason, the MKE guns, they seem to fail a little bit earlier than other brands. I don't know if it's a different spring that you're using or a different heat treat, whatever, but it's like a $3 part. But just know that that is one thing I have experienced, that I would imagine if we go another 500 to 1,000 rounds on this gun, I would start seeing it as well, because that tends to be right around where they start to fail, at least from what I've seen from the MKE guns. But that's a minor thing, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about it, anything like that, you can let us know down below in the comment section. You can also let us know over at my various social media websites. Those are the best places to follow me and get your questions answered, particularly right now over on X. That is where I'm most active, because I can actually say things uncensored. What a radical concept. So I definitely recommend you follow me over there. Additionally, if you've hit the subscribe button on both YouTube and Rumble and you're not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week here on the channel, then you are being censored by an algorithm. Easy way around that is to sign up for the email at the website here on your screen. This will get you put on 2 different email lists. It'll get you put on the monthly email that goes out, and that just has all of the videos since the previous month's email went out. So that way there's no algorithm censoring you from my content. It goes straight into your inbox. And then additionally, it'll get you put on the daily deals email. As the name indicates, it goes out every day, and it has typically 8 to 10 of the best deals that we find on the internet on a given day. If the item is in the email, that means I've already done the price comparisons for you. It's the cheapest that I know of anywhere on the internet for that item. So that way it saves you guys some time and hopefully saves you some money as well. And lastly, we have an SMS service. You guys can sign up for that using the actual code here on your screen. You just text it over to the number that's on your screen, or you can just go to the website and sign up there as well. Either way, we'll get you signed up for the SMS service, and that goes out again at most once a day. It either has one of 2 things in there, either a new video that has just dropped, or it has a deal that very likely will sell out, and I want to get it straight in your inbox as soon as possible there on your cell phone. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you all for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.